Welcome to the Invernadero Mind Podcast. I am your host, Gabriela, and I'm so happy that you're here. Invernadero is Spanish for greenhouse. It represents light, life, and a home for bright minds. In this podcast, I discuss hot present topics in today's culture, and our guests share their successes, challenges, and their journey in finding balance between chasing their dreams while protecting their mind and spirit in this fast-paced culture. In this inclusive podcast, we talk to everyone. Stay tuned and let's get the conversation started. Our guest today is a certified integrative health coach who is full of knowledge and experience in holistic healing. She guides men and women through their journey of finding balance in different areas of their lives, from nutrition, hormonal imbalance, to learning how to find peace through love and acceptance. We discuss the struggles of dealing with body image, acne, toxic relationships, and forgiveness. And she guides us through techniques that can allow us to build a healthy relationship with ourselves and guard our energy and peace. Let's welcome Cherie Ha.
Hello, Cherie. How are you? Thank you so much for doing this interview. I appreciate it.
Hi, Gabriela. I am very excited. My cheeks are fully, all elated and happy to do this. Yeah.
I am so happy to have you. And honestly, when I found you on Instagram, I was super happy. And I had to text you because I definitely, as soon as I started navigating your content, I resonated with it so much that I was, I have to talk to her and I have to ask her a few things that I read that, you were talking very open about them, and I just wanted to kind of pick your brain, and one of them being acne. I know you've been very open about that too, but we'll get to that in a bit. First of all, tell us your story. How did you become interested in becoming a health coach? What is exactly, being an integrative health coach? What does it mean?
So for me, it all started from food. And growing up, I always loved watching cooking shows.
Yeah.
There wasn't much of an emphasis on healthy cooking, but through that, I was really, I think a lot of creativity was brought about when people were cooking on the TV show. They had the lovely kitchen and like the food, and being able to combine it all together and being able to eat it. It just brings me so much joy watching that. So through food, I ended up combining more of a health perspective on that, just purely out of interest. But then also from a place of I was going through acne at that time, and that was probably when I was just out of high school. So around that time, it would be when I was, say, 17, 18, I started getting my first breakouts. And I was someone who had always clear skin being younger, and people would say, your skin is so beautiful. And so being exposed, coming across acne for the first time, I immediately relied on external information to help me reduce my acne, and that would be through harsh skincare that was advertised at that time. So we're talking about, say, 15 years ago, and not really understanding that acne, a big contribution to acne is through food and what's going on internally as well as your environment. So I was really fascinated about the body and how we can support the body's healing through food and lifestyle practices. So during that time, I was in university. I ended up graduating with a Bachelor of Science in pharmacology and physiology, so that's drugs and the human body. And I realized that the more I was learning about drugs, the more less I was interested in it, and the more it turned me towards natural alternatives. And during university was actually the time where I was suffering from, my acne got worse, and it was predominantly on my forehead, not so much on my cheeks, but consistently on my forehead. And these were really deep red cystic ones. It wasn't the small white pustules. It came from, it just felt like it was very hormonal, or something was triggering it internally. So I spent a lot of time, like many acne sufferers would, online, sifting out all the information out there. And that time, I remember there was a big platform online called acne.org. And I was spending hours and hours at night just seeing what worked, seeing what didn't. I've spent thousands of dollars on skincare, on even herbs and natural supplements and things like that, all to try and help my skin, and I still wasn't getting the results. So in 2017, my mum was like, Cherie, why don't you just try the contraceptive pill? You've gotten a doctor's diagnosis where that time my hormones were really low, the ones related to the reproductive hormones, so estrogen and progesterone, and my testosterone, I think it was normal, but there was this other component called sex hormone binding globulin that where testosterone can bind to it, but to not allow testosterone to kind of be overbalanced to cause imbalances in the body, but that was really low. So and these symptoms I was experiencing, so like the acne, and also I was getting, I guess, like I was noticing I had a bit of excessive hair growth around, maybe not a lot, but maybe around my face a bit more. And that was also an indicator of polycystic ovarian syndrome, which is something that is so common that I think 1 in 10 women in Australia are come across that diagnosis for themselves. And when you get told that, you have high testosterone or your women hormones are low, you feel like you're not a woman. You feel like there's something wrong with you, and you really kind of degrade. It feels very degrading. Yeah. So, and that time, my mental, a lot of these things, even though these were physical symptoms, I was also experiencing a lot of stress emotionally and mentally, just, trying to get around the idea like, oh my gosh, can I have babies in the future? Can I, am I woman enough? What does even a woman mean anymore if I don't have these hormones? And so, I can really relate to women when they are diagnosed with PCOS. That time, my periods were quite irregular as well. So these were really long 40, 50-day cycles. And so that also contributed to this diagnosis that the doctor was like, okay, yeah, you possibly have PCOS.
Wow. How old are you at this point when you got, not diagnosed, but when a doctor told you, okay, you might have, PCOS?
Yes, I think I was around 20 years old. Mm-hmm. And when I got the news, I was just really shocked. And it was just devastating because I didn't know much about it. And when doctors share what it's about, they put it in terms which is very clinical. They put it in a way as if like there's something wrong with your body. And I know every doctor is different, but at that time, with lack of education on not knowing that the body is always trying to bring itself to balance, there's always this equilibrium state that it's trying to get you towards, then, we don't think of our body like that. And we think that there's something wrong with it, that we have to fix and change it. But like at that time, I did not know that. I didn't know the power of the body and our ability to heal. So yes, around 20 years old, I was told that. And then I ended up going on the contraceptive pill because my skin was just taking too much of my time and energy. And mum's like, you can always go off it down the track. And I was like, okay, let's give this a go. We know that the pill has been shown to clear skin amongst the general population when it comes to, putting the pill. So I went on it for 2 years. The first year, my skin broke out even worse. It got so bad. It wasn't just my forehead. It was my chin. It was my cheeks. It was everywhere. And I was like, I know that the pill is going to do this because I'm aware of what it will do. And it's your body is just trying to cope with the excess hormones that you've just put into your body, but also trying to balance it out at the same time, or trying to get rid of it, which is often what the case at the beginning. Your liver's like, which is a big detoxifying organ, like, what is this strange foreign compound you're putting in me every single day? I need to get rid of it. What's the best way I can do this? Okay, it's too much. It's given me too much. I can't do all of this job. I'm going to purge it through the skin. I'm going to, could cause gut issues because there's like this foreign compound with a whole bunch of, other artificial random ingredients to make that pill that you put in your body every single day. So I was experiencing gut issues more towards like UTI. So I was, I wouldn't get the infections, but I would be getting like close to symptoms like it, like where I could easily get it, and it was so uncomfortable. And a big thing that I noticed when I was on the contraceptive pill was that I felt very disconnected to myself and my body. It was just like this separation. And when I woke up, I felt like I always had like this cloud over my head, like I couldn't think clearly anymore. I was also very agitated and very sensitive at that time. Like I was just not a happy person being on the pill. And even though it was, on top of that, it was causing my skin a lot of issues. So during that time, I remember feeling so scared of how I looked. I was already scared of looking into the mirror every single day and seeing all these uncontrollable redness and pimples on my face, and for it to keep coming throughout that whole year, it was very, I guess you could say the word was very traumatic. And it is. Yeah, it was a long whole year of seeing acne every single day and not knowing how to cope with it. And also finding ways to hide, finding ways to not show up in uni and to social outings, making excuses. And at that time, I remember I was hanging around with a group of girls who were so lovely, but because of what was going on my skin, I started, pushing myself away from them. And I think that at that time they would probably think that I didn't like them anymore, but it wasn't the case. And I never told them what was going on. It was because I was just so like insecure of how I looked that I just could not handle hanging around with them anymore. So along the way, of course, people, family, friends would make comments, would try to say things like, not try, but say things, can be quite insensitive or inconsiderate, like, what's wrong with your face? Why do you have so many pimples now? You used to have such nice skin when you were younger. You're so stressed, fix your stress and it'll be better. Or you're eating too much dairy or oil. And it was just like, it just makes you feel like, don't you think I know that I'm trying to do all these things? And It makes you think that, it feels like as if people might think that you can't take care of yourself. And that's what was really hurtful for me and caused me a lot of conflict. So the second year being on the contraceptive pill, things actually started clearing. And my skin was all clear second year, but I was still so unhappy. I still found the things I picked myself on. I was so unhappy in my relationship at that time. I was just thinking that I was still really ugly, and these thoughts were just not going away. I still had that fog over my head. So I made the decision, and at that time I was studying at the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. So that's a company in New York that I studied it for 1 year online, and you get the qualification of an integrative health coach. So I started realizing all this, the incredible ability of the body. And I already knew that the pill was just going to mask the symptoms. So every time that my skin was clear throughout the whole second year, I knew that it wasn't real. Like I knew that when I was getting the period as well, it's not my period. And I started feeling really in conflict with that. And I was like, how long would I want to be on this pill? I'm so unhappy. I just want to be connected back to my body. So I made the decision to get off the contraceptive pill, clearly knowing that I will get the symptoms back, but I had the belief and the tools and the knowledge on how to clear my skin. And I was allowing myself the time that I know that it was going to purge again. My skin has to, like, your hormones have to rebalance again. And that's going to take time. That could take 6 months, or that could even take 2 years. So I made that commitment. I stopped going on the pill. Yes, my skin broke out, but it wasn't as bad as the first year being on the pill. It was still there though. And I was just finding ways, going to naturopaths, going to kinesiologists or acupuncturists, healing my gut, so doing like a gut cleanse, because often when you're taking that pill, it's disrupting the good and bad bacteria, it's disrupting the microbiome of the gut. So you're going to have to figure out a way, we're going to have to figure out a way to remove the toxins, the buildup of it from having that pill, from taking that pill every single day. So at that time, I knew the importance of the gut to heal it, also the importance of my liver because it's a big detoxifying organ, and also my adrenal glands, which is the gland on top of your kidneys that are also, it's important to really nurture them because that they cope with stress for you. And they also are responsible for secreting some progesterone as well, which is very important in your menstrual cycle. So I started really seeing the body as through a holistic lens, instead of just thinking, periods is just super isolated to my ovaries, there's something wrong there. No, in order to clear skin, it's your gut, it's your liver, it's your adrenal glands, it's to focus on, but then also other systems in your body, such as your lymphatic system, which is also like a drainage system, very similar looking like your circulatory system. That's all throughout your body, and it's important to it collects toxins. So it's important to kind of develop ways to clear the toxins through exercising, through movement, through massages and all that, to really to get rid of these toxins. So I've been doing this since I think it was in 2017 that I decided to really get off it. So now it's 3 years down the track. I have a regular menstrual cycle. My skin, I still suffer from acne, but nowhere near as bad as before anymore. And the more I understand my body from all these other lenses, even from traditional Chinese medicine, from Ayurveda, I really have been understanding the kind of foods that are supportive for my hormones, but also foods that I can be quite sensitive with. So it's important to get more information about what kind of sensitivities do you have. Are you allergic to certain things? Everyone is so unique. Their body constitution is highly impacted by the environment. So you really want to experiment and explore foods that will trigger you or you find that will actually feel quite good for you, and don't cause you any aggravation in the gut. So I continue focusing on the gut. I continuously try to sleep better, hydrate myself, deep belly breathe, and all these other strategies that can really support the body overall, and not put it in like this stressful fight or flight mode, because so often now, so much evidence is already showing that stress is a huge contributor to all our health conditions. If not, it's probably even started from stress, creating like this inflammatory response in the body. So it's so important to really focus on finding ways to de-stress and working on your mindset and your belief system to not trigger the stress. Because so often our stress is perceived stress, and it's the stress that we place on ourselves. So it's like, we think we're running out of time. Okay, what happens when we're running out of time? We're going to be rushing. We're going to be making decisions from a place of fear. We're going to be putting our body in a stressful state. So let's work and shape our belief system in a way where we can adopt more of like an abundance mindset, or a mindset where we know that our body is healing, and to allow it to take the time so that we can take that pressure and that stress off when we're trying to heal our skin, deal with acne or any other health conditions.
I love that. And you touched specifically 3 topics that I've been dying to ask you. And the first one is, I loved when you mentioned, the trauma that you experienced from having acne, because I myself, when I started college, I wasn't really breaking out. I didn't really break out that bad when I was in high school. But as soon as I started college, I was somewhere in 18, 19, I think. The freshman year was okay, but then, oh my gosh, as soon as I entered my sophomore year, I started breaking out really bad. And I didn't know what to do because I didn't know what was causing it. And of course, in the US, everything is super expensive, and my insurance didn't exactly cover going to the dermatologist for these things. So I was freaking out. I was looking for alternative ways. And back in the days, even though there was already, social media and all this stuff, people weren't that open about these topics, and it was almost like a taboo. Like, you don't want to talk about this, you don't want to acknowledge that you have these issues, right? And I remember that people were still hiding the fact that it's normal to experience this thing. So whenever I would look for the information on YouTube or on Facebook, and online in general, I mean, there were all these methods, all these recommendations that people would give, and I was honestly overwhelmed. At the same time, I still had to go to school, and it's so funny that you mentioned that you had to kind of separate yourself from your friends as well, because you felt, self-conscious about this, which is something that happened to me too. And, I was breaking out all over. Like, I was covering my face, I remember, in makeup, because I was embarrassed to go to school looking like that. And it was like the worst cystic acne, you could possibly get. And eventually I was like, you know what, I'm going to go to see a doctor. My mom said the same thing, it's better that you go to see a doctor, see a professional, see what's going on with you. Thank goodness my family wasn't that judgmental. But I did have friends who made it obvious. And I think that, itself was just like part of the trauma. Like, till this day, I can remember my whole sophomore year, I was very much depressed, to the point that, I don't remember having fun. I mean, I remember some nice things from that year, but in general, I was just like the entire year very self-conscious about my acne, especially after I went to see a dermatologist, and then I went to see a gynecologist, and turns out that yes, I might have PCOS as well. And not just that, but like my dermatologist said that, oh, my skin in general, I have big pores, I have oily skin, and everything's just like playing against you, right? So she put me in, she gave me all this medicine, all these pills, and next thing you know, after I think 4 weeks, I'm peeling, because obviously I'm taking medicine to kind of, fight the whatever bacteria or infection, I don't know. And at the same time, I'm treating, my skin. And I kid you not, I was peeling so bad, like little, flakes of skin were falling. And I remember I was in my finals week, clearly the last, during fall. And I had to go to school looking like that. And I remember at one point I was like doing an exam, and one little flake of, my skin like fell on the on the exam, and I was like, holy shit, it was so embarrassing. And I remember, people being aware of what was happening and just looking at me, and it was very traumatic. So that's something that I wanted to ask you. How do we deal with trauma like that? Not in a physical sense, but, in an emotional and psychological way, because it is something that can definitely, acne is one of those things that can either hurt you really bad or make you strong. But I feel like you first have to go through, in my case, depression, right? And, how do you deal with that? Because for me, it wasn't easy. So from your perspective, now that you are, also a coach, what are the first steps that somebody who is dealing right now with acne can take so that they don't, go into this black hole of, sadness and everything? And I'm asking you this because I've been doing my research and following a few groups on Facebook that talk about this. And unfortunately, I read 2 posts that made me extremely sad about 2 different people that have even explored, suicide because they just can't take it anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. What I would say to someone experiencing acne like this and how to help them emotionally and mentally is to know that, firstly, there's nothing wrong with you. Okay? As general or cliche it sounds, it's actually, there's nothing wrong with you. All it is the body it's responding to what's happening, what's it's receiving internally or maybe externally. So if it is stress, in order for the body to help you adapt to the stress, because if you're not if you're not removing your stress, then what it will do, it's going to release cortisol. What does cortisol do? Cortisol will help moderate the stress for you by increasing your energy storage. So often people get, the belly fat storage around here. Mm-hmm. often it will come through your skin because it also disrupts other hormones that are like your androgens, which contribute to acne. So if we just see it from like objective lens, it's nothing wrong with you. That your body is just trying to do its normal regulatory functions based on what it's received, even if it's, say, the bacteria that's been exposed into your gut from something that you ate or when you were traveling or something like that, or if it's been from lack of nutrition, not enough healthy fats in your diet to provide the building blocks for to make your hormones that really contribute to healthy skin, for example, then that's what the body is just going to be coping with. Okay, so it's important to see the body as a natural, self-regulating healing mechanism because it is doing this every single day for you. Every time that you're sleeping, or actually every time that you're living and breathing, it's always trying to balance the body with whatever it's being exposed within its internal and in the external state. It's always trying to bring us to this equilibrium state for us to function every day. So there's so many processes that we don't even know because we can't physically see it or feel it that are going in the body just to bring us to our optimum. So if we can really see our body from a place of it's always healing, it's always regulating, instead of there's something wrong with me, my body is weak, my body is giving up on me. I think that's really important, like a really important concept to grasp, and to really also educate yourself more about the human biology of your body. So then you can actually understand and believe, because it all comes down to a belief that your body is trying to do its best. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's one aspect to help with trying to deal with the trauma or the kind of the thoughts that you're saying to yourself and what you're believing about your body right now. That's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
How to deal with it emotionally, I'm still on this journey to doing it. However, I find that I can't, whatever we kind of hold in, so if we can't express it, it's going to cause a lot of discomfort in our body. If anything, it can worsen our health conditions. So I do believe it's so important to express your emotions and what you're going through acne in whatever way, in whatever form, even if it's crying. Mm-hmm. If it's so important to release it. It's so important to move through the emotions that you're experiencing. If it's writing, you could be writing about it. You could be reflecting on it. What we want to do here is just focus on moving things through. Like what comes in has to come out. Kind of thing. We don't want to have stored stagnant emotions in our body that often aggravates all our health conditions, including our acne. So find a way to move through, even if it's talking to someone about it, if it's through even, some people are actually doing this, like taking pictures of their face and share it online, sharing their stories, because that's an outlet for them to release what's going through. You don't have to find the answer straight away as much as we want to, but doing that is going to be a great way for you to move through this and not be so fixated on this moment in time where you could just be living through this experience throughout the rest of your life if you choose to. But what we do is we can acknowledge that we're always changing, the body is always renewing, and we're always evolving. So what's happening right now in this time of your life is only temporary, okay? Even if it is for 6 months or a year or 2 years or even 8 years, like, because I've experienced this for over 8 years. I acknowledge that our body is always doing its best. It's always changing. It's always renewing. And if we don't need to place our identity and our worth on this condition of our skin, then that's going to help us a lot more as well. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I know it's hard to, when you wake up and your skin is just breaking out and you're just like, oh, I've done something wrong. I don't look pretty. I don't feel good. But if we can just acknowledge that, okay, it hasn't got anything to do with who I am though. Who am I? And if we look more into learning about who are we, what are the things that we love, what things do we want to create, and what's our impact in the world, and where are we heading in our life, then we can place a lot of pressure off the identity that we have, the worth that we place on how we look, and move and place our focus in other areas of our lives that we can identify ourselves with, okay, instead of how we look.
I love that. One of the things that, for example, people have to deal with, and that's one of the reasons I approached you, because I really wanted to explore mental health related to acne, not just acne, but in general, anything, that falls under the category of, I guess, beauty, right? How do we deal with pain, and not just pain, but also resentment and comparing ourselves to others? Because, for example, you're not experiencing just emotional pain because you're dealing with this, you're going through this whole thing, acne journey, but you're also like through treating yourself. For example, I remember like applying all these creams, all this, antibiotics and all this medication on my face, and just applying it. It was like so painful, I remember. And like it would itch and burn, and just like treating my own face was like, it would make me angry. Like I remember like sitting on my couch and just like with my, little creams, whatever. And it would burn and itch so bad that it would like create this resentment, right? And towards other people, because obviously I would compare myself and I would be like, all right, how come she doesn't have to go through this? And I do. Not just like, I don't just have to fight with this, but I also have to deal with the pain, just not just emotional, but also the physical pain of dealing with this problem. And it created like this whole cycle, right? Where I was resentful towards everybody who's, by the way, had nothing to do with my problem. I was dealing with pain, and also I was dealing just in general with a lot of anger. Like, how can we, like, I guess, or what are the channels that we can use to kind of, get rid of that energy in a way that is healthy for us and not detrimental and not, invasive?
That, you're putting on the cream on your skin, and then you're feeling that physical pain, the burn itself. And then also it comes with the emotion of resentment. Okay. And other thoughts about other people and comparing yourself to others. So it's like this huge combination. It's like a big mix of just thoughts, feelings, physical sensations that, like, it's very, it is not pleasant to experience. But what we can think of is, if we kind of just separate ourselves from the meaning that we place behind this physical sensation, that will kind of help us a lot, I believe. Where, for example, you're putting on the cream right now, and then you're feeling the physical burn, and then you're kind of attaching it with resentment, the feeling, the thought of resentment and the feelings with that. So if we can just focus on the actual sensation at that moment and not think about the meaning of it, then, because we can only think of one thing at the same time. Yeah. So yes, right now you have to put on the cream if that's your decision to do, and you can feel the burn. You could just focus on, okay, it's burning my skin right now, okay? Instead of thinking, okay, this hurts, I'm so annoyed, I'm angry, I'm resentful. To just focus on, okay, it's just a sensation. Because when we think of it as a sensation, there's no meaning, there's no charge to it. It's just a response. It's just I won't say the word feeling to confuse, but yeah, it's objective. Okay. Acid, skin, it's uncomfortable. Okay. It's burning right now. All right. So we can focus more on that, and apply that to other areas of situations as well, then that can help us not attach so much meaning towards things. And we can actually choose to attach whatever meaning we like with a sensation. So that could be something to be explored further. When it comes to, I guess, there's just so many elements in this, but that's just something that I feel has been helping when I look at myself in the mirror, and then I see pimples coming up and redness. Instead of being like, like, I'm so annoyed, I'm so angry, it's just like, okay, redness on my skin, this part hurts. And it's kind of like, okay, it's an objective thing. All right. Thing is, though, we are human beings and we are emotional beings. So it's like, okay, so how do we manage the emotions? And for me, how I help go through, allow myself to express my emotions and to feel them, because it is important to feel them and not reject them and resist them, because they will come up regardless, is to actually feel them. So, but acknowledge that they aren't, they're not you. So it's just an emotion that you're experiencing right now. So if you can just allow yourself to be annoyed, to be angry right now, and to just feel really hurt, and just say, right now, I feel hurt. Right now, I feel ashamed of myself. I don't like how my skin is right now. And just base it to this moment, instead of thinking this is going to be forever and it's just an experience. Then I think we will allow ourselves more to feel, and then find ways to move through it, like find another perspective out of it. Because I strongly believe that whatever incident you're going through, and it's a perceived bad situation, there's always like something that you can take out of it. There can't just be a bad situation and nothing can't be taken out of it. You can always take something out. It's like the light at the end of the tunnel. There's like this pearl that you can grab from a really dark situation. So what is it? Then you can start thinking about, like, what is it trying to teach me? What's the lesson here? Okay. Yeah. A good tip to when thinking about an emotion is, because often when we are feeling sad and we're crying, we think that they're like really negative emotions and we shouldn't be feeling like that, right? But the more we say we shouldn't, the more likely we are going to actually, like, we're going to come up with these, they're going to come up again. Okay. We're kind of like pushing these emotions away, but they're going to come up again. And what are we going to do? We're going to try and push it down. We're going to try and run away from it. But if we see emotions as like as all neutral, instead of some emotions are good, some emotions are bad, why don't we just acknowledge that emotion is here? This emotion is here. What can it teach me? What is sadness teaching me here right now? What is feeling really shit teaching me right now, here, right now? Okay. And to not just think, feeling sad is bad. Okay. So removing the label of feeling sad, of what is good and bad of an emotion would also, I think, will help people as well to not try and push the emotion down, resist it, and then cause even more suppression of emotions in our body.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And I think that's such a great tip that I also learned it in some book. I can't remember the name, but, basically it was an exercise where if you're feeling something, either, especially negative, either sadness, anger, don't fight it, actually, like, experience it, right? Like, feel it and understand that, yeah, it's a feeling, but it's very transitory. It's going to go away eventually. You just got to kind of observe it. And I think that was the word, observe the feeling, because it's not it's not permanent. It's actually temporary. Like, tomorrow you will wake up and probably will feel better or forget about it. Or if it comes back again, it's kind of like a constant habit that you have to build, right? Which is something that I had to really learn how to do, but it was, such a journey. And I love that. I love what you just said. Now, talking about self-esteem, what are the first steps, or what are some things that we can take towards dealing with the lack of self-esteem? Like, how can we actually start loving ourselves?
I think with that, it would definitely come from not defining yourself to how you physically look. First of all, you are not purely defined. You can choose to define yourself however you like. You can define yourself through, the impact that you make in the world, what you create. You can define yourself by, the amount of healthy food that you ate in a day, which that's up to you if you think that's how you want to define yourself. But we want to make sure that the things that we are defining ourselves are things that, that serve us, that make us feel good, and something that we can always, we have power in. So we don't really, in terms of developing more self-esteem, it's important to know that you're so much more than how you look in your body, and you can feel really amazing about yourself with things that aren't that you can't physically see, but how you are, like how you feel inside you, and the way you treat other people, the way that you would like to move forward with your career, how you would like to make an impact in the world, what are your interests, and really focusing on the things that you can create and can control, and really build great foundations in those areas where naturally, no matter how, and down the track, as you keep focusing these areas and building these other areas in your life, you don't need to place so much like focus on how you look, because it doesn't matter to you, because you just feel freaking amazing. You're too busy focusing on all the other things that are going well in your life, that when, even if you did see pimples on your face, you're kind of like, oh, okay, cool. Like, all right, my body, I probably just ate something that I shouldn't eat that day. I didn't have enough sleep. And you kind of just be like, all right, cool, I'll just do better next time. That kind of outlook, right? You put less power to how you physically look by doing things that you love and by helping others, and you will feel more fulfilled in those areas. So in order to help you build more self-esteem, I would say focus on what you really love to do, take care of your body, and actually get to understand and know more about your body and listen to it, and start making decisions from a place of how do you want to live your life, and how do you want to like to create your day, and how do you want to eat, and how do you want to hang out with your friends today? Like, start designing your life instead of thinking that the external reality is just you, instead of feeling like relying on the external reality and circumstances to navigate you and to direct you to places. Like, let's start putting the power back to you and direct yourself and design how you want to create your day and how you want to create your life.
I love that. And, one of the things about having a low self-esteem is that you can definitely attract toxic relationships, which is something that I also want to get your input, because I know you're focusing right now your work on this too. How can we identify, or what are, some, I guess, markers, that can help us identify when we are in a toxic relationship, when we are surrounded by toxic, relationships that we sometimes attract, right? Because we have low self-esteem, and that's something that I think I myself have experienced before. The lack of self-esteem, I was coming from a place where I needed just to be, I guess, protected, or just like validated, I guess. And obviously the first person that comes and says, hey, you're beautiful, you're going to fall for that, right? How can we identify when we're actually falling into this cycle, of a toxic relationship?
Yeah. I actually read an article recently about this that's posted on the Fearless Females website, and I can always share that with you afterwards. But yeah, some of the indicators and what I experienced and realizing now, like coming, being in a toxic relationship and getting out of it. And some of these things were, firstly, if they were constantly bringing the worst out of you. Okay. Like, it's normal in relationships to, you can have those arguments, and you may not be your best self all the time. But if this is consistently, like if they're consistently like just like you're arguing a lot, okay, and it seems like these arguments are never fully resolved, and the only way that you are resolving these arguments is purely just because you both are just too exhausted. Well, one person is too exhausted from continuously arguing, and someone just has to say sorry. And so the underlying problem was never resolved in the first place. So I would say one of them being checking if you're continuously just if the other person or the relationship in general are bringing the worst out of each other more than the good. Okay. Another thing is if they are, if you feel like when you are hanging out with them and afterwards you're just feeling really drained, you're feeling really exhausted, you felt like you had to like put so much effort into something or try to control situations, or to maybe expect an outcome, and at the end of the day it was just too tiring to be around them. That is often something that comes up being around someone who just may not be the best for you, because they also may be relying on you to make them happy, and you're having to like carry them up as well, especially if they are going through they are mentally unstable, or they are depressed or some sort. It can create a toxic environment, a toxic relationship, and you having to just feel like you're carrying the relationship.
Mm-hmm. And, one of the things that, obviously you want to get out as soon as you can, but sometimes we refuse to do it. And unfortunately, sometimes it evolves into something worse, such as domestic violence and other issues. Why is it hard that sometimes, especially women, try to fight and because it's like a syndrome that we have. We kind of want to fix everybody. You know, we want to help everybody and help this person change, even if it's not a romantic relationship, just a friendship. You know, why is it that we are, you know, resistant to letting go instead of, you know, protecting us?
Yeah, I think because we are so naturally nurturing, and even if it was a intimate relationship or someone else, we have that tendency to just want to take care, wanting to make sure people are okay. So that's really like our innate, you know, it's within us, biologically as well, because we just want to make sure that, for example, our children are well taken care of, and we may not see strangers and friends as children, but we can act like that. We can act really caring in that sense. The more research I've been doing in this area is also relating it down to the biochemistry of our body, especially of having someone that we're used to in our lives, and our biochemistry actually adapts to having that person in our life. So it will secrete various hormones at a certain level, for example, serotonin or dopamine, which are all like feel-good hormones, and hormones, especially with serotonin, which is quite low in women compared to men, where serotonin is all about feeling safe and secure. So if someone else is able to provide that for us, and, you know, even if they are, you know, not treating us the best, but we've spent so much time with them, when it is very hard to leave that person, because we've attached ourselves not only energetically, right? We haven't really gone through much about that, but biochemically, we're used to them, okay? The mind is also, so not only is the body used to it, the mind is also used to it. It's used to this environment. It's like, okay, it's normal for me to have this person in my life, even though that person is causing me so much stress. I'm adapting to it. Let's adapt to this. And the moment that person, when we try to leave them, it's like a drug addiction, and you're removing that drug from you. What is it? It's like you're going cold turkey. There's like a huge dip in, I forgot that term. I keep forgetting that term every time I explain this, where because we're so used to that person and that person's gone, our body, our biochemistry is just like, our mind also is like, what's going on here? It's
kind of like a withdrawal period.
Yes, withdrawal. Yes, that's right. And the body and mind is like, okay, this situation isn't normal. This person is out of my life now. How can I get this person back? Because that's what's normal to me, right? The body actually thinks that it's in a threatening situation now, because there's not that same person in their life. And even though we know that person's treated us really badly, and we know that's toxic, our body, like a drug addiction, it's going to try and get us to do things and to think things and feel things again, to kind of reach out to that person again and to have them back in our lives.
Yeah, I saw that. I've seen this before, not just with me, of course, but with friends, you know, when they're trying bad to get out of a specific relationship, and one day they're like, all right, I'm done, no more. And then the next day they're like getting back to the same cycle, you know, talking to them. Sometimes, you know, they are reaching to them or responding to these messages, or just falling into this rat race again. It seems like it's so hard, you know, in the moment. And I feel like when I was in that position, I remember saying this, like, it seems easy to everybody outside, you know, my that is not feeling what I'm feeling right now, but actually it's such a challenge, because you feel exactly what you just said, the withdrawal period. And it's like, oh my God, you wake up and you're like, you literally feel your body aching. It's like crazy.
And I do feel like, because women are more, you know, in tune to their body, and, you know, as people often term us, like, we're more emotional beings. So if our emotions are also highly impacted by the hormones in our bodies, because we've got dopamine, serotonin, that also affect our well-being and how we feel. And if those hormonal levels are, you know, out of balance a little bit, because this external stimuli that was always in here was regulating us to some extent, or bring us to a certain equilibrium, and it's gone, of course we're going to feel like there's something not right. Okay, let's find ways to excuse his behavior or her behavior and get them back. And it, you know, and we relate to the past often. So often in toxic relationships, you know, the present moment, like, often people base the relationship from what happened in the past, like, you know, during the early 6 months when it was like the honeymoon phase and we were all treating each other so lovely. What happens is down the track, when it gets really toxic and it's like we're arguing more and all that, but we excuse their behavior because of how they're treating us in the present moment, because we always look back to the first 6 months and how, oh no, that person really did treat us well, you know, and then we kind of need to step out and be like, wait, but that was in the past. Are they actually the same person as they are now? Are they treating me like how they were in the past, or is it completely different? And often it is different. It is not the same. They are, you know, they're not treating you well, and it's so important to be aware.
How can we learn to forgive in a way that is truthful, healing, but so that you're not giving in, so that you're not, compromising your own self-esteem, your own, safety? Because it seems like we tend to confuse forgiveness with excuses, with making excuses, right? Oh, it's probably this person was going through this, so I'm just going to forgive in the name of this, right? But like, how can we learn to forgive in a way that we are not giving in? We're not letting or making excuses for other people.
We have to make sure that we're embodying forgiveness. So to really feel as if, and be honest with how we're feeling, if we really do forgive that person or not. Often it takes a while. So we may think in our mentally, okay, fine, it's been, say, a year. I should be forgiving this person for now, because we're just saying should, and thinking that, okay, yep, cool, I forgive him or her because, I haven't seen you in a while and times have changed. But we still are storing a lot of the emotions that have happened through that relationship. And it's so important for us to move through it, to be able to express it, to acknowledge it and attend to that area, because often being in a toxic relationship, that person will actually highlight things that need more nurturing and nourishment for you to do that for yourself, because often we are relying on other people to make us happy or feeling validated. So it's always like, okay, what's that mirroring back to us? It's mirroring back to us that we don't love ourselves and we're relying on other people to do. So how can I love myself? So the more you attend to those areas in yourself and love yourself and actually forgive you for going through that. And it takes time, and everyone's going to be different. Like, I still am trying to forgive from what happened. And I still acknowledge that, allow myself to still give time with that. And the more I develop myself, though, and love myself, I find that the more easy it is to forgive what happened, forgive that person. So a big part of it is to forgive yourself and to love yourself more, so then you can forgive others. And to just keep working on yourself, to keep moving through those emotions and those experiences. And it could look very different. You could need other people. You could need therapists. You could need other coaches. I recently did breath work sessions to move through trauma release. So you may need various modalities to help you move through things. But the help is there, if you're willing to help yourself. And the more you grow and move through that, the more you're able to forgive other people and really mean it and really believe it and just want the best for them, no matter what's going on, or no matter how they had treated you in the past.
I definitely think that's true. One time I saw something that I think it was Taylor Swift who posted this or said this in an interview. She said something like, sometimes you don't have to forgive if you don't want to. Like, that's not a big deal. Is this true? Is this true for everybody, or is it different? Because I feel like in my case, sometimes I do want to forgive, and sometimes I am like, I shouldn't be forced to tell people, okay, I forgive you, right? But I feel like what we should do is definitely work on ourselves, forgive ourselves for making this mistake or putting ourselves in this situation. Because when I read this, it was very generic, and I was like, I don't think this applies to everybody. What do you think about this statement?
I think you don't need to set a time on how long, when you are willing to forgive someone, right? But I think for your own health and well-being, to learn how to forgive, because if you don't forgive, you will hold these things inside your body that, why would you want them inside your body? Why would you want to feel aggravated and maybe perhaps even cause more health symptoms that come up because you're just holding on to those experiences and moments? I think for yourself, bring it back to yourself and not think about if the other person is waiting for your forgiveness, and to allow yourself to move through forgiveness, to cultivate forgiveness in yourself is important. Otherwise, you don't have to forgive that person. You can choose not to, but what is it doing on you? How is it impacting you? You're not feeling good. You have these thoughts and feelings. You bring back to the past and you're feeling stressed and aggravated and tight. So let's move through that for your own health and well-being.
I love that. That's such a good response. Now, let's talk a little bit about your book. You've been doing so much research. You've been working on it. What are a few things that you have learned along the way?
Definitely there was a huge correlation between being in those kind of relationships and the way I viewed myself and my body. So I through my own journey of learning, not only from others on how to take care of your body better and how to eat and really eat for, say, and learn about your menstrual cycle for women and really tune into your body and listen to yourself more. It was also through how I started to love my body more and take care of it. That's a big part of the book, and that's a big part that is so important to help others form other better relationships down the track as well. The more you, really focus on loving yourself more and loving your body. So that's a big part of what I've learned as I've been developing the book and really understanding your emotions, what they are and the importance of it. So the things that we shared today on how to move through these emotions, especially when you leave that toxic relationship, there's so many emotions that are going into play. I also learned about, the biochemistry of males and females and how it's good to learn about that. So then we can develop more compassion to the other person, not think like, they're not treating me well at this moment in time. Did I do something wrong? Or, there could be so many other factors involved, but there are some biological things that make us really different. And when we do understand each other more, we can kind of live more harmonious with each other without feeling insecure or thinking there's something wrong with them or me or the relationship isn't working. So some topics of that. I also talk about really learning how to, learn more about yourself more. So exploring your values and your goals and how you want to approach and build your life and create good foundations there, because all that will help you develop a better relationship with others down the track. Because in the end, whoever comes into our lives and whoever we choose to remain in our lives mirror things within us. So like you mentioned, having low self-esteem, you will attract someone with low self-esteem. They might not look like they have low self-esteem because they maybe look protective and they're working on their physical body and things like that. But are they really relying on that for their self-esteem, or is it really through, they're really learning about themselves more? So I do make an emphasis on how our relationships really do mirror, the kind of people who come into our lives do mirror like parts of ourselves and areas that we can work on or areas we've already worked on. Yeah.
I love that. And I love that you mentioned also the relationship that we should have with food, because it's obviously related to body image as well. And I was, fortunate enough to never have to go through that, but I know people that did, and I have close friends that did, especially through high school. Body image was a very touchy subject, and I had a couple friends that had to go through eating disorders. And I love that you talk also about, the relationship that we have or we should have with food. Now, what are some, factors, or let me rephrase this. What are some things that we should keep in mind when, building a relationship with food and how we, feed ourselves and nutrition in general?
I think in the health industry and health education places so much emphasis on food. Like the moment we think of how to get healthier, okay, we have to eat healthier. But there's other factors involved, such as your sleep, such as hydration, such as breathing, that are actually to be of priority. Then when you get those areas consistently on point, food is actually third or fourth on that list. And because there's no point in eating healthy food, nutrient-dense foods, but your sleep is out of whack. You're always in a stressful state, so you're not fully breathing, and also you're not hydrating yourself, because all these will impact the state of your body and the gut and how it can process the nutrients in the first place. It could also impact, because you don't have enough sleep, your stress hormones are raised, as well as you're going to be making like random, like different decisions that you normally would if you did have full sleep. And that can relate to the food choices that you make as well. So I highly recommend for those who want to approach getting healthier. And yes, food is important. Prioritize nutrient-dense foods and look into foods that you love to eat. And instead of thinking of foods that you can't have, think of it, okay, what foods do I love that are nourishing and also nutrient-dense that make me just feel freaking good when I eat it, okay? And I trust you, it's not going to be the choc chip cookies. Yes, they'll make you feel good in like a really short amount of time, but you're going to feel crap afterwards, okay? I'm talking about really delicious foods. So let's focus on more on how much you can incorporate in that than how much you have to remove in your normal diet. I think it's good to also just stop relying on other people on how they are creating the standard of what healthy eating looks like, okay? Bring it back down to what do you like to eat, and removing all that white noise, because often like on social media, we've got a lot of smoothie bowls with like all these like loaded ingredients on top, like, you know, and yes, they are nutritionally dense, but it can be really full on to the body depending your type of body as well. So it's good to really always check in with yourself when it comes to food. Is this food doing okay? Do I actually enjoy it? Is it causing me stomach upsets right now? It is also good to keep it very simple. If we're just thinking of how to really optimize our gut and digest our food, keep your meals really simple. You don't need to overload it with so many ingredients. Just prioritize the nutrient-rich ingredients, and then you don't need to make it complicated. And of course, eat like whole foods. Make food where you can. And yeah, I think those would be the main things I would like to share.
At home, what are some things that we can do to kind of identify and actually organize and build a meal plan that can be friendly, healthy, and also that can be delicious? Like, what are some foods that you think should be a must?
For me, it would be vegetables, the first thing. Vegetables, green leafy vegetables, colorful vegetables, explore the ones that you love to eat, and really eat it in a way that you can retain a lot of its nutrients. So that often comes through steaming, that can come through roasting your vegetables as well, and that could be really tasty as well, or just lightly sauteing it. You want to avoid, frying it, or you want to avoid like boiling it, because you don't want to remove it and kill the nutrients and the enzymes that are in these vegetables. So prioritize your vegetables, and then also include some, quality protein. So if you're someone who does eat meat, I often ask like, what is the culture of my clients as well, and their nationalities, because you can actually use your own culture and nationality as a good way to modify or create your recipes, because your body is more able to, it's got the genes that are activated to help process certain foods that's from your culture more, because it's passed down through your DNA. So for me, I come from Asian background, Vietnamese, Chinese, and so I'm someone who I haven't come to the point where I'm removing meat, because I'm eating it in my culture. So that's through broths, that's through slow cooked meats. And just a tip with meats, it is good to have, yes, they contain a lot of protein. So it is good to eat some meats, and also some vitamin B's in meat as well. And but it's important. The way you cook it is important. So I do recommend when eating meat, try aiming to get like it cooked down really slowly, so then it becomes really tender and able to be digested better in the body. Okay.
Yeah.
So protein doesn't have to be meat, can come from other sources such as tofu or tempeh if you're vegetarian, or even eggs. Okay. And then I would say, include some good quality healthy fats in the form of avocados, coconut oil or olive oil, nuts and seeds, depending what this meal is, and then have like a good source of carbohydrates. Some people can do quite well without a lot of carbs, because they're getting a lot of energy already through the fats and the proteins that they're eating. But if you're someone who does like carbs, and I do, because I often have rice and I often have roast potatoes and all those things, I'm happy to eat it. So I do recommend kind of like, incorporating some carbs just to keep you a bit more full, that can or satisfied, that sometimes can't fully come from just eating proteins and healthy fats, depending who you are. Mm-hmm. So it's nice and well-rounded. Kind of keep the carbohydrates a bit last, just only because it the way we're eating nowadays is really refined, and you don't want to spike your blood sugar levels. That often causes other hormonal imbalances that would come from carbohydrates. So we just want to be mindful of that. Yeah. So nothing too restrictive. Yeah. It's a good indication. Stick to like foods that you love to eat, particularly from your culture, and slow cooked broths and all those are really delicious as well. Try separating your solid foods from your liquids. So often we drink water or some other drink with our meal. We don't want to do that too much because it will dilute the digestive enzymes that's trying to break our food down. So we just want to separate that. So something so simple like that is actually quite significant and will reduce the bloating or like indigestion that can often come when you're combining the two together. Okay.
I love that.
Yeah. So have a play around. It's all exploration. Keep it simple. Don't eat when you're just simply not hungry. You don't have to follow what other people are eating, and your meal can look different to someone else's, and to just own it and to prioritize the nutrient dense foods, because with the moment that you do that and you're eating these really highly nutrient dense foods, you're actually just going to feel full, because the body is always prioritizing nutrition, so then it can function, it can help you. The moment it's kind of like tick that box off, it's going to signal the fullness hormones and the satiating hormones and be like, I'm done, I don't want to eat anymore. Yes, there's cake down there, but do I really need to eat it? No, I really don't feel like it. And so you're just going to naturally stray away from those foods without feeling like you're restricting, just simply from you don't want to, you don't feel like it. Yeah.
I love the way you explained this. Now, talking a little bit about you, you've been writing a book, you're coaching now. What are some major, roadblocks that you faced this year, and how did you overcome them? Because obviously you're still, working on your craft, on coaching, producing educational content. So can you talk to us about your roadblocks? What challenges have you faced, and how are you overcoming this?
I face roadblocks often, especially when you start a business. Mm-hmm. And at the moment, I think the biggest roadblock for me is actually trying to do too many things at the same time. Mm-hmm. So what I'm learning is having to really prioritize and to trust that I can attend those other projects later down the track, and there's going to be the right time for everything. So that may not seem like a big roadblock, but that actually is, because it really does determine the quality of what you produce and my ability to really coach and be full, clear-minded, and to help the person. And, it affects the content that I create at the end of the day. So that would be a big roadblock for me at the moment. However, I'm getting better at prioritizing and knowing that I'm dedicating the next 2 weeks with the book. Another roadblock, I guess, COVID, right? COVID chucked us all out of thrown all our plans out. But the thing is with COVID was that I actually used it to my advantage. So whilst everyone was the general population was feeling like, oh my God, like this is a big block, I was like, okay, this allows me to do things that I couldn't do when in my usual routine that I had, and actually opened me up to really finalizing the program that I promoted this year called the Bloom and Nourish program. So I was able to complete that, which I probably wouldn't have had time to if COVID didn't come through. Yes. So things like that. Other roadblocks, I mean, there's lots, but I could spend a long time sharing them. But I guess a roadblock would be trying to just to speak up and not be afraid of doing so, and to know that the more that I stick to my truth and share what I feel is true to me, then that's more than enough. And to not hold back on that, because I'm often conflicted of thinking, oh, am I too strong-minded in terms of what I'm sharing? Is it too much for people? Is it just going to be quite distasteful? Is it too confronting? Is it too serious? But then there's another part of me that's like, no, speak up, lead. There's people who are on similar journeys. And so I'm always conflicted by that, and always learning to just, follow through with what I say and what I plan to do, without having those thoughts and fears like, I care what other people think of me. Am I too much? So that's another, I guess that's a challenge. Social media is already a big challenge enough, because so many people are just pumping out content every, millisecond, and it's so important. Like, you can really get swayed by that. So the challenge for me is to not get distracted and to not compare myself with other people. And I find that really challenging. Like, when I'm trying to post something on Instagram, I can immediately get lost in all these other things that are happening. And Instagram itself is always changing. Algorithms and the way we use social media is changing. Previously, Instagram was just purely just sharing like photos, and if whoever did post, that would be considered as someone who's really brave to be open themselves up to the world. Now so many people are sharing their individual unique days, like on Instagram stories, So I find that it's distraction, and getting focused is such a big, like, we need, in order to grow what you want to grow or build like an empire, for example, a big business, it's so important to be focused and not let other people sway you, social media sway you, not get distracted. I say, that would probably be one of the top, actually, just doing me and not getting distracted, not like trying to tweak myself based on other people and how they're doing it. Yeah.
I love that. All right. One last question for you. What's next for you? What do you hope to be doing in the next 5 years? What do you hope to get out of this book and, get offered to your clients?
Yeah. Oh, I love that you asked this question, by the way, because we recently just went through, the Saturn and Jupiter. It was called the Great Conjunction. It was like this portal, asking what you really want and setting clear intentions. And so I haven't done that with anyone. So I really appreciate this question. So the next year for me, I want to focus on sharing more about my book. I think if I finish the first draft, it's about bringing people along that journey to share what it's like, writing this book and what's the process like. So I want to bring that out more. Find ways to do that. Yes, continue coaching more, continue creating more content that I feel like is more focused on the body. I find that there's so many aspects of life that influence our body, but I'm really getting clear that my expertise and my knowledge is about the body. So let's really move forward with that. So I want to explore that further and bring in concepts such as traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurveda, and to help people understand more about their body and how to even eat for their body based on other concepts beyond, what, say, like a nutritionist says. So I think in 5 years' time, I'd love to have built up a community, to have a podcast, to be regularly collaborating and talking about these kind of topics, to really be the light for people to know that you can be yourself. It's safe for you to be yourself. You're going through health conditions, there's nothing wrong with you. Let's learn how to understand your body better. Let's learn how to just speak up and share your truth. So I really want to be able to do that, and also locally. So I live in Perth, Western Australia, small town, small city, main city in WA, and I really want to be out there more, not just on social media, but really making my way physically and connecting with people through there and running, say, workshops, or just speaking up more in my town, because I grew up here and I feel like I have like this responsibility of some sort to really give back to this place I was so fortunate to live in, and really help people who really don't have this kind of information that we're sharing right now, in terms of like aren't on social media and aren't, really looking out on the trends with health and wellness and where self-development and self-growth is going. Like, they have no idea, especially like the older generations. And I feel like I really want to go there and be there for them. It's because I feel like there is like this split happening where there's people who are becoming really awake and conscious and intentional how they live, but there's other people who have no clue because they didn't get the chance to do that when they were younger because they were focused on, trying to survive, trying to run, like, for example, my parents running away from the war to a safe place. And now, the world is changing, and I really want to be able to help those people as well, and not get lost behind the people who are, in that area.
Good. I can't wait to see what you do next, and I'll definitely be following your content, what you do, and I'm so excited. I am very, very excited and very much looking forward to read your book. So thank you so much for doing this interview, Cherie.
Thank you, Gabriela. And I just want to say thank you so much for actually reaching out to me. I wanted to do a podcast or speak up about this topic, but just due to my capacity of using social media, I wasn't able to. And you literally came at the right time. I'm comfortable with speaking up with these topics, and I think that we've created a really good discussion in this podcast. And I hope more people can, tune into it, those who are struggling, and to know that you're not alone and you are supported and there's nothing wrong with you. And I just want to be able to bring that comfort through us both speaking about it today.
I love it. Thank you. I feel like I look at you and there's so much light, there's so much knowledge. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to this episode. You liked what you heard? Tell me what you liked in the review section. And if you want more episodes like this, please share your suggestions. After this episode, the conversation continues in our new Facebook group. The question of the day is, have you ever struggled to forgive or let go of something that was causing you pain? What did you do? Let me know by joining us at the Invernadero Mind Facebook group and share your thoughts. I can't wait to see you there.